My parents were so obsessed with my older sister, Chloe Miller, that they never realized I had another family living inside the mirror. It wasn't until they came back from a 3-day vacation with Chloe that they finally remembered they had another daughter at home. But when they rushed through the front door in a panic, expecting to find me starving or neglected, instead, they found me clean, well-fed, and healthier than ever. Mom stared at me in shock, guilt flashing across her face. "You took care of yourself all these days?" I shook my head. I stayed inside the mirror. The mom and dad in there took care of me. For a split second, disbelief flickered across both their faces. Then came the explosion. "You know Chloe only became autistic because we had you," Mom screamed. "She barely talks to anyone except her dolls, and now you're copying her? Making up some ridiculous mirror story just to compete for attention." Years of exhaustion and resentment finally erupted, and all of it came crashing down on me. They locked me inside my room. From the other side of the door, Mom's voice cut through the darkness like a knife. "We're already exhausted taking care of Chloe. We cannot look after 2 children who act strangely in this house. If you keep pretending to be crazy, then maybe you shouldn't stay in this family at all." Curled up in the corner, I cried so hard I could barely breathe. Then suddenly, a thin, withered hand reached out from the mirror and gently stroked my hair. One more time, the woman inside whispered softly, "If they abandon you again, Mommy will take you with us." The moment my bedroom door opened, Mirror Mom crawled backward into the glass. My real mother stood silently in the doorway. "We have guests coming over soon," she said flatly. "Come help downstairs." I followed behind her carefully, afraid to fall out of step. She handed me a stack of plastic dessert plates, and my eyes immediately drifted toward the giant cake sitting in the middle of the dining table. "Hurry up and cut the cake," Mom urged impatiently. Halfway through slicing it, I suddenly realized what day it was. Today was my birthday. So they did remember. My nose burned, and I quickly wiped my eyes before the tears could fall. For a moment, I remembered how things used to be before Chloe got sick. Back then, Mom and Dad were good to me too. Whenever they took Chloe shopping, they'd bring me pretty new clothes instead of forcing me to wear Chloe's old hand-me-downs that never fit right. If I left with the family inside the mirror, would they be sad? The fantasy shattered instantly. Mom clasped her hands together excitedly, her voice trembling with happiness. "Chloe finally called us Mom and Dad today. This is such a huge milestone. Once everyone gets here, maybe she'll even talk to a few more people." I froze. The smile slowly disappeared from my face. The doorbell rang. Relatives flooded into the house, surrounding Chloe like she was the center of the universe. "Chloe, I heard you're talking now. Come on, sweetheart, say hi to Uncle Rick. And I'm Aunt Cheryl. Say my name and I'll give you a huge present." Under everyone's eager attention, Chloe pressed her lips together nervously and twisted the hem of her dress without making a sound. Dad noticed the excitement in the room starting to fade and quickly shot me a look. "Help your sister." I squeezed through the crowd and smiled brightly. "Hi, Uncle Rick. Hi, Uncle Wayne. Aunt Cheryl. Here, let me get everyone some cake." The relatives laughed as they accepted their slices. "Lily's such a sweetheart. That little mouth of hers could charm anyone. If I had a daughter this adorable and talkative, I'd brag about her nonstop." Only Aunt Cheryl looked unimpressed. "Oh please," she said loudly. "That's not charm. She's obviously attention-seeking. My son was already learning coding at her age. Who cares if she knows how to greet people? Showing off in front of her autistic sister like this is honestly pathetic." Mom's expression immediately darkened. "Lily," she snapped, "for once, can you stop making everything about yourself? Chloe finally started speaking, and you still have to steal the spotlight." Dad's smile vanished too. "Quit trying to get attention with these little tricks." When he noticed I'd gone completely silent, Uncle Rick smirked at me. "So tell me, Lily, who taught you how to fight for attention at such a young age?" My lips trembled, and tears stung my eyes. Instinctively, I looked toward Mom and Dad. Their expressions shifted slightly, like they'd suddenly remembered all the things they used to force me to do. Ever since Chloe's autism had gotten worse, they'd constantly pushed me to talk around her. Every single day, they made me sit beside her and chatter endlessly, hoping she'd eventually respond. Most of the time, I talked until my throat hurt. Chloe never reacted. Then Mom would break down crying and take all her frustration out on me. "Talk to your sister," she'd scream, clutching her chest. "Say something. Keep talking. What's the point of that mouth of yours if you won't use it? Chloe's always been so good to you, and all you ever do is upset her." But Chloe's version of being good to me was sneaking me candy even though everyone knew I couldn't eat sugar. I was only 3 when it happened. My teeth rotted so badly from all the candy that I cried myself to sleep almost every night from the pain. In the end, all my baby teeth had to be pulled. Afterward, my parents still blamed me for it. Dad used to kneel in front of me with a serious expression and say, "The therapist said Chloe needs someone at home to guide her speech development and constantly reinforce positive communication. As her little sister, it's your responsibility to help her. You need to set an example." But I had tried so hard. I'd done everything they asked. So why were they still unhappy with me? Standing there under the pressure of everyone's questioning stares, I twisted my fingers together helplessly, not knowing what to say. Then Dad suddenly handed me a bowl of strawberries. "Go sit somewhere and eat," he muttered. "And stop talking so much." I took the bowl carefully. The second I did, Chloe lunged forward, ripped it from my hands, and hurled it onto the floor. Strawberries exploded everywhere. Then she let out a piercing scream. Mom and Dad instantly went pale. Chloe was having another episode. Mom's eyes reddened as she jabbed a finger against my forehead. "Lily Miller, why are you always so greedy? Chloe hadn't even touched the fruit yet, and you were already helping yourself." Her voice rose sharply. "You know Chloe struggles with security issues. Everything in this house has to prioritize her first." I stared down at the ruined strawberries scattered across the floor, bitterness clogging my throat. Quietly, I crouched down and started picking them up one by one. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I won't eat them anymore. Chloe can have all the strawberries." Uncle Wayne frowned as he watched me. "Lily's changed a lot," he said slowly. "When she was 3, nobody could take food away from her without a fight." Hearing someone defend me made warmth bloom painfully inside my chest. Before I could stop myself, the truth slipped out. Because the mom inside the mirror already gave me strawberries. The second I saw my parents' icy expressions, panic crashed over me. I quickly clamped both hands over my mouth and shook my head hard. Aunt Cheryl let out a cold laugh. "This kid really knows how to act. First she plays the victim, now she's making up nonsense about a mom living in the mirror? What's next? You gonna tell us you plan to move in there too?" I froze. How did Aunt Cheryl know the Mirror family wanted to take me away? Mom noticed the fear on my face and started trembling with anger. "Lily," she said through clenched teeth, "haven't I taught you that good children don't lie? Why are you embarrassing us in front of everyone with this ridiculous story? Tell them right now that the Mirror mom is fake." Instinctively, my eyes drifted toward the hallway mirror outside my bedroom. The woman inside slowly poked her head out. Her hollow eyes locked onto mine. A strange smile stretched across her face. My voice came out small and shaky. "Mom, I'm not lying. There really was another mother inside the mirror." But under my real mother's furious stare, the rest of the sentence died in my throat. Uncle Wayne, who had secretly trained for years with the Templeton Foundation as an exorcist, narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. "I don't think Lily's making this up," he said carefully. "There might actually be something wrong with that mirror. Want me to check the house?" As he opened his bag and pulled out a quantum specter detector, along with a silver cross engraved with mysterious symbols, Mom's expression visibly tightened. Just as Uncle Wayne started to question me about the mirror, Chloe suddenly let out another ear-piercing scream. Chloe grabbed a sharp shard from the floor and hurt her own arm. Mom panicked instantly. She rushed over, wrapped Chloe in her arms, and stopped her before she could hurt herself again. Dad looked at me with heartbreak and disgust written all over his face. "So this was your plan?" he snapped coldly. "You lied about seeing Mom and Dad in the mirror just to make Chloe feel guilty enough to cut herself? We've loved and spoiled you your whole life, Lily. How did you turn out this cruel?" I shook my head violently, tears blurring my vision. Dad, I wasn't lying. But he refused to hear me out. After quickly explaining the situation to our relatives, he and Mom rushed Chloe to the hospital. Once everyone left, I stood there alone in silence. I had tried so hard to be good. Why didn't Mom and Dad believe me? Luckily, she was not badly hurt. But Mom and Dad still took turns staying beside her hospital bed, terrified she might hurt herself again. The only times I saw them were when they came home to cook for Chloe. And every single time I tried to get close to them, they instinctively pushed me away. Lily, stop clinging to us, Mom said sharply. You already pushed Chloe into cutting her wrist. Do you want to keep pushing her until something terrible happens? I shook my head, my chest aching with hurt. Mom, I don't even know why Chloe did that. I never wanted her to die. Even when Chloe lost control and splashed me with hot water. Even when she cut my bangs with scissors. I had never hated her. Because deep down, I always believed her illness was my fault. If I had never been born, Chloe never would have gotten sick. Mom and Dad wouldn't have had to spend every day miserable and exhausted. But hearing Mom say those things still hurts so much. 2 days later, Chloe came home from the hospital. After she returned, she became much more lively than before. Besides calling for Mom and Dad, she even started speaking in short, simple sentences. Mom said Chloe finally spoke because she couldn't bear seeing her cry so hard. But I had spent years trying to help Chloe talk, and she had never responded to me once. So why did she suddenly start talking the moment Mom cried? Holding the doll Mom from the mirror had given me, I quietly pushed open Chloe's bedroom door. Inside, Mom and Dad sat beside her bed, gently comforting her. From now on, you can focus on getting better at home, Mom said softly. No matter how much Lily tries competing for our attention, you'll always be Mommy's favorite. Dad nodded immediately. Same here. That's why we ignored Lily these past few days. She needed to learn her lesson. Chloe's eyes reddened. Don't blame Lily, she said slowly. She's still little. Maybe it would have been better if I didn't exist. Mom and Dad immediately looked heartbroken. Dad wrapped an arm around her shoulders and comforted her gently. Sweetheart, don't say things like that. You'll always be our precious little girl. Then his expression darkened. As for Lily, she's getting manipulative. Your Aunt Cheryl offered to take her for a while and straighten her out. Once you recover, we'll bring her home. The doll slipped from my hands and hit the floor. Mom and Dad both froze, panic flashing across their faces after realizing I had overheard everything. Dad saw me standing there silently and let out a frustrated sigh. Well, since you heard already, there's no point hiding it anymore, he said. Your Aunt Cheryl called yesterday asking us to send you over for a while so she could discipline you. My body felt unbearably heavy, like it had been filled with lead. Tears pooled in my eyes as I looked at them. So just because Chloe's sick, you're pretending not to love me anymore? You're really abandoning me. Dad turned his head away, unable to meet my eyes. Mom, on the other hand, let out an impatient scoff. Aren't you always insisting there are parents inside the mirror who love you more than we do? She snapped. Fine. Then take your mirror and go live with Cheryl. The second she finished speaking, she shoved me out of Chloe's room and slammed the door in my face. The laughter coming from inside stabbed into my chest. Maybe they really were a happy family of 3. Maybe I was the extra person who never belonged. I quietly returned to my room. Inside the mirror Mom had already prepared a warm lunch for me. The rich smell filled the room. She opened her thin, shriveled arms toward me and smiled. Come eat, sweetheart. Once you're done, Mommy will take you away. Your daddy's waiting for you inside the mirror. I nodded blankly and obediently started eating the food she made. Halfway through the meal, tears finally splashed onto my plate. Sniffling quietly, I looked up at her. Before I leave, can I say goodbye to Mom and Dad? Mirror Mom's lips slowly stretched into a strange, unsettling grin. Be quick, she whispered. Mommy's taking you soon. I wiped my tears away, grabbed a pen from the desk, and wrote Mom and Dad a letter. Then I ran downstairs and hugged them tightly. Mom, Dad, goodbye. Mom glanced at the letter like it disgusted her and immediately tossed it into the trash. Dad's face remained cold and tense. Don't think this little act is going to change our minds, he said harshly. Your Aunt Cheryl will be here in 5 minutes. Go pack your things. I nodded heavily. Even though I had already prepared myself to leave, my heart still hurt. Back in my room, I didn't pack a single thing. I just sat quietly on my bed, staring at the house I had lived in for 6 years. Suddenly, it felt unfamiliar. But at least the parents inside the mirror loved me. And the sister there didn't hate me. Maybe living inside the mirror would actually make me happier. Just then, Aunt Cheryl's loud voice rang from outside my room. The door won't open. That brat locked herself in. Mom and Dad immediately started pounding against the door. Lily, Dad shouted furiously. You've really gotten out of control. Open this door right now. Your Aunt Cheryl's here to pick you up. Even if we have to drag you out ourselves, you're going with her today. When I refused to respond no matter how much they yelled, Dad finally lost his temper and kicked the door open. The moment the door burst open, they saw me standing quietly in front of the mirror. I smiled and waved at them one last time. Mom and Dad's faces instantly darkened as they stormed toward me. But before they could reach me, a pair of shriveled gray hands stretched out from inside the mirror behind me. Mom and Dad turned deathly pale. Lily, get away from there, Mom screamed. But I turned around without hesitation and threw myself into those arms. A minute later, the mirror returned to normal. Dad stood frozen in front of it, his face livid. Lily, he shouted furiously at the mirror. Get out here right now. Don't think we can't see through this stupid magic trick just because Uncle Rick taught you a few things. But no one answered him. Enraged, he ran behind the mirror to look for me. There was nothing there except a solid wall. No place a 6-year-old child could possibly hide. Dad's face twisted with anger. Fine. Stay hidden then, he barked. I'm calling Uncle Rick over right now. He'll definitely figure out where you are. If you come out now, your mother and I might still forgive you for this. Mom frowned deeply beside him. Lily, she warned coldly, do you really want us to wait until Uncle Rick drags you out before you're satisfied? Do you want your father to beat you that badly? Still, the mirror remained silent. With no other choice, Dad called Uncle Rick. At first, Uncle Rick didn't believe him when he heard I had disappeared into a mirror. But the second Dad mentioned it might be one of my magic tricks, he became interested. He rushed over almost immediately and began carefully examining the mirror in my room. Meanwhile, Aunt Cheryl kept grumbling nearby. Rick, hurry up and figure out where this girl's hiding. I'm just taking her home for a little discipline. Was all this really necessary? An hour later, Uncle Rick finally stepped back from the mirror with a troubled sigh. Then he looked at Mom and Dad skeptically. You two seriously saw Lily go into the mirror with your own eyes? Dad nodded firmly. Mom immediately grabbed Rick's arm. Can you get her back or not? She asked anxiously. Besides magic, I can't think of any way Lily could disappear right in front of us. Uncle Rick shook his head helplessly. I've checked this thing over and over. It's just a normal mirror. No hidden compartments. No trap mechanisms. No signs of stage magic at all. Honestly, I don't think this was an illusion. Mom froze. Then desperation filled her eyes. Rick, please think of something, she begged. Lily couldn't have just vanished. Rick spread his hands helplessly. Brenda, I already tried everything. Mom stared at the mirror, her eyes slowly turning red. Just as she stepped forward to examine it herself, Chloe suddenly ran over and hugged her tightly. Mommy, Chloe whimpered. I'm hungry. Mom suppressed the complicated emotions on her face and forced out a smile. Be good, sweetheart. Lily's just throwing a tantrum and hiding somewhere. Mommy will get you some cookies first, okay? Once we find Lily, I'll cook you something delicious. But Chloe shook her head emotionally, almost crying. I don't want Lily. I want food. Mom stared at her in shock. For the first time ever, she pushed Chloe away. Chloe, stop it, she snapped. Lily's missing. How are you still thinking about food right now? Chloe lowered her head miserably after being scolded. Then she ran back to her room and immediately started throwing things everywhere. Mom instinctively moved to stop her, but Dad grabbed her arm. Lily's the one missing right now, he said quietly. Chloe probably won't do anything serious. Let her vent. Then his expression slowly changed. Wait, didn't Wayne once say something felt wrong about this house? He murmured. Maybe we should ask him to come take a look at that mirror. Mom let out a shaky breath and finally nodded before calling Wayne. Unfortunately, Wayne had gone out of town for work. Earliest he could get back was in half a day. The second the call ended, Dad slammed his fist against the dresser and glared at the mirror like he wanted to smash it into pieces. Mom grabbed his arm before he could. What if breaking it traps Lily in there forever? Dad gave a cold snort. Then maybe she should stay there forever. Even so, he lowered his hand. After waiting over 30 minutes for Wayne, Dad finally lost patience. This room doesn't even have windows, he said suddenly. Lily has to still be in here somewhere. Everybody searched the room carefully. Maybe she left something behind. Everyone agreed and immediately started tearing through my bedroom. Aunt Cheryl looked around with obvious disgust before laughing under her breath. This place is depressing as hell. Kid barely owned anything. Let's see where that little brat thinks she's hiding. She yanked my blankets and pillows onto the floor and even crawled down to check beneath the bed, but there was no sign of me. Just as she was about to sit down and rest, she suddenly jerked upright. Ow, what the hell? Something beneath the mattress had poked her. She ripped the bedding back and immediately recoiled in disgust. You guys need to come look at this. Lily's filthy. There's a pile of nasty crap hidden in her bed. It reeks. Her voice immediately drew my parents over. Covering their noses, they stared at the shredded, filthy clothes stuffed beneath the mattress. The fabric matched exactly what the hands inside the mirror had been wearing. Dad's face instantly went pale. But only for a second. Then he forced himself to calm down. Lily must have hidden dirty laundry under there while we were gone. He said quickly, I told you leaving her home alone for 3 days was a bad idea. She obviously couldn't take care of herself. His voice stiffened. And she lied about those mirror parents taking care of her. Uncle Rick frowned as he picked up one of the torn strips of fabric. Gary, this doesn't look like a kid's clothes. Mom glanced anxiously toward the mirror, clearly terrified they still hadn't found me. She hurriedly cut in before Dad and Uncle Rick could start arguing. Can we not do this right now? Finding Lily is more important. We can worry about everything else later. The two men reluctantly nodded and continued searching. But after tearing apart every inch of the room, they still couldn't find me. In the end, they had no choice but to call the police. The officers arrived quickly after receiving the missing child report. After hearing the story 3 separate times, the lead officer still looked skeptical. Mr. Miller, he said carefully, your daughter disappearing is a serious matter. But you're telling me someone dragged her into a mirror? Dad immediately nodded. My wife and I saw it happen with our own eyes. Someone inside the mirror took our daughter. Please, you have to help us find her. For a brief moment, the officer looked like he was questioning my parents' sanity. But after seeing Uncle Rick and Aunt Cheryl backing up the exact same story, he could only continue the investigation with a deep frown. Trying to gather more information, the officer asked, Did your daughter do anything unusual before she disappeared? Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. Then Dad spoke. Before she vanished. Lily had been acting weird around her sister's room. Sneaking around it a lot. The officer looked confused. Why? Mom avoided his eyes before answering awkwardly. Because she was jealous of the attention her autistic sister gets. We never thought something like this would happen right under our noses. The investigation had completely stalled when suddenly, one of the female officers pulled something from the trash can. A note, she said quietly. It was the goodbye letter I'd left behind for my parents. The officer skimmed through the letter once. Her expression changed instantly. Without another word, she handed it to my parents. Mom and Dad looked confused by the officer's reaction, but they still unfolded the paper. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm leaving. I know you only love Chloe. You only care about Chloe because she's autistic. That's why you punished me and left me home alone for 3 whole days while you went on vacation. Actually, my stomach started hurting from hunger on the very first day. I kept hoping you'd come home and check on me, but you never came. Instead, the mom and dad inside the mirror came to take care of me. They looked a little scary, and their clothes were torn up, but they treated me really, really well. I like those parents better. After I'm gone, the three of you can finally live happily together. And when Chloe gets better, Dad won't have to drink every day anymore. Mom won't cry alone at night anymore either. Mom's eyes reddened before she could stop herself. This stupid kid, she whispered hoarsely. Why did she write it like we never wanted her? Uncle Rick finally snapped. Because that's exactly how it looked. He glared at Cheryl. I heard Cheryl telling people you two were planning to dump Lily at her place so she could straighten the kid out. His face darkened. Cheryl can't even manage her own son. That boy never finished high school and runs around with street gangs all day. Sending Lily there would have turned her into a live-in maid for that family. He looked furious. Why the hell would you throw your daughter into a situation like that? Mom froze. Then she slowly turned toward Aunt Cheryl. So when you said you'd teach Lily some discipline, Mom said through clenched teeth, you meant turning my daughter into your son's servant? Cheryl crossed her arms without the slightest guilt. Pretty much. She shrugged casually. You don't even like the girl anyway, so why not give her to me? She can cook, clean, and take care of my son. Then she sneered. Girls grow up and end up serving some man eventually anyway. Might as well start early. She gave another dismissive shrug. And once she's older, you can kick her out without feeling guilty. Everybody wins. Mom completely exploded. Cheryl Miller, are you out of your damn mind? Lily is my daughter. Nobody gets to treat her like trash. Her entire body trembled with rage. And who said I don't love Lily? I love both my girls. Cheryl let out a mocking laugh. Really, Brenda? She tilted her head. Because from where I'm standing, all you ever cared about was your sick older daughter. Her eyes swept across the room coldly. Every time I saw Lily, her clothes barely fit her. Half the stuff she wore looked like Chloe's old hand-me-downs. She scoffed. Nobody looking at that family would have believed you loved them equally. Mom opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. Because Cheryl's words were cruel and true. Dad finally cut in sharply. Enough. His voice turned ice cold. If you're not helping look for Lily, then leave. Cheryl rolled her eyes, muttering curses under her breath as she stormed out of the house. Meanwhile, the police searched the home over and over again. Still nothing. Eventually, the officers prepared to leave, but Dad hurriedly stopped them. Officer, please, he begged desperately. Please keep looking for my daughter. Seeing the panic in his face, the officer finally sighed. We'll continue the search, he said. But we need full access to the house. Complete cooperation. Dad nodded immediately. Of course. Anything. The officers entered Chloe's bedroom and began searching through everything piece by piece. The second they did, Chloe's face twisted in panic. She grabbed a pillow and started wildly swinging it at the officers. You can't search my room, she shouted emotionally. I have privacy. Dad suddenly froze. His expression darkened as he stared at Chloe. For the first time, she'd spoken several complete sentences fluently. Yet there wasn't a trace of happiness in his eyes. Only suspicion. Chloe, he said slowly, frowning hard. Since when could you talk like that? Chloe's voice turned shaky. I don't know. Maybe the cops scared me just now. Mom had already noticed something was off. Her expression darkened as she stared at Chloe. Why are you so desperate to stop the officers from searching your room? Are you hiding something about Lily? Chloe instinctively backed away, clutching the cabinet beside her desk like her life depended on it. I'm not. Before she could finish, Mom shoved her aside and yanked the cabinet doors open. She searched through everything from top to bottom before finally pulling out a diary. The second Mom found it, all the color drained from Chloe's face. Dad snatched the diary from her hands with a cold laugh. A diary? Let's see what kind of secrets you've been hiding. The first page read, My little sister Lily was born today. She's so cute. Dad flipped to the next entry. Lily is 2 now. All she does is cry. Mom and Dad don't love me like they used to anymore. Another page. Lily turned 3 today. I hate her. So I pretended I couldn't talk anymore. Mom and Dad finally stopped paying attention to Lily. Another. Lily's teeth were way too white. She's so stupid. I just kept feeding her candy until all her teeth rotted out. After she got them pulled, Mom and Dad even yelled at her. Another. I hate seeing Lily wear my old clothes. Even if I don't want them anymore, they're still mine. Why should she get to wear them? Another. Sometimes I really want to scream at Lily in front of Mom and Dad, but I have to keep pretending to be autistic. And finally, Mom and Dad said they don't want Lily anymore. That idiot is finally leaving. I'm so happy. The diary ended there. Silence filled the room. Mom's face went pale. Chloe, you pretended to have autism because you were jealous of Lily? Now that the truth was out, Chloe stopped acting completely. Yeah. So what? She snapped. Lily's gone now. Mom and Dad belong to me again. Aren't you happy? Dad finally exploded. The slap echoed through the house. You little monster, he roared. How could you do something like this? Do you have any idea how much money we spent trying to treat you? How much we suffered because of your so-called illness? And all because of something this petty? Your sister disappeared because of you. Chloe laughed bitterly, completely unapologetic. If you two hadn't started favoring Lily after she was born, none of this would have happened. I just wanted all your love. What's wrong with that? Dad's face twisted with anger. Your mother and I treated you both equally from the very beginning. Chloe let out a cold, mocking laugh. Really? The second Lily was born, all you cared about was her. You even gave her the biggest bedroom. If I hadn't pretended to be autistic, you never would have switched our rooms back. Her eyes were red as she glared at them. Mom, Dad, is that what you call treating us equally? Neither of them could answer. For the first time, they realized their favoritism had destroyed both daughters. The police searched for hours, but the investigation still went nowhere. Eventually, Mom and Dad could only watch helplessly as the officers left. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. Mom rushed to answer it, convinced the police must have found me. But standing outside was Uncle Wayne, dusty and exhausted from travel. The second he saw the disappointment in Mom's eyes, he spoke firmly. I finally figured out what's wrong with that mirror. Uncle Wayne's words hit the room like a thunderclap. Only Dad remained calm. The police already checked everything, he said skeptically. They didn't find anything strange. What could you possibly see that they missed? Without answering, Uncle Wayne walked over to the mirror. His expression turned grave. This isn't an ordinary mirror. Uncle Rick clearly didn't believe him. He crossed his arms and scoffed. I inspected that thing over and over again. It's just a normal mirror. Let's hear this big discovery of yours. Before he could finish, Uncle Wayne pulled out a small glass bottle and splashed holy water across the mirror's surface. A second later, images began appearing inside it. Everyone froze. Their eyes widened in horror and disbelief as they saw me trapped inside the mirror. The moment Mom saw me, she completely broke down. She slammed her hands against the glass and screamed, Lily, come out. Please come out. Mom and Dad know we were wrong. We never should have ignored you because of Chloe's fake illness. Dad thought I was still angry and refusing to forgive them. For the first time in years, he lowered himself completely. Lily, he said hoarsely, stop being mad and come home, okay? We'll never send you to Cheryl's house again. Whatever you want from now on, we'll give it to you. Just come back. But no matter how desperately they pleaded, I never responded. Dad finally lost control. He raised his fist and smashed it directly into the mirror, trying to break me out. Stop! Uncle Wayne shouted. But he was too late. The mirror shattered across the floor. The image vanished instantly. Mom turned deathly pale. Wayne, she whispered. The image is gone. Can we still find Lily? Uncle Wayne slowly shook his head and sighed. I might have been able to bring Lily back from the future before, he admitted quietly. But this mirror was a gateway connecting two timelines. Once the mirror broke, the connection was severed. There's nothing I can do now. Dad stared at his bleeding hand, his face full of regret. I was trying to save her, he muttered. I thought breaking the mirror would bring Lily back. Mom suddenly looked up. Wait, then the people who took Lily weren't ghosts? Her voice trembled violently. They were me and Gary from the future? But the people in the mirror didn't even look like us. Uncle Wayne awkwardly scratched his head. Uncle Rick's expression finally turned serious. You're saying all this is real? Wayne nodded. I contacted researchers connected to the Templeton Foundation. That mirror was developed jointly by a future scientific team and the foundation itself. He paused heavily. It's experimental technology that allows travel into the past. But there are flaws in the system. Serious ones. I can't even confirm whether the people inside were really future versions of you two. His eyes drifted toward the shattered glass on the floor. And now the mirror's destroyed. Mom's voice cracked. Then, is Lily still alive? I honestly don't know, Uncle Wayne admitted quietly. For now, gather up the mirror fragments and send them to the Foundation's research lab. Maybe they'll find something. With no other options left, Mom and Dad did exactly that. But after the mirror was sent away, no news ever came back. From that day on, my disappearance consumed them. They barely ate. They barely slept. The house that had once ignored me was now haunted by my absence. And Chloe changed too. At first, she could still speak normally. But after being blamed and screamed at every single day, she gradually stopped talking altogether. Mom and Dad took her back to the hospital, and this time the doctors officially diagnosed her with autism. But they refused to believe it. They thought Chloe was lying again. No matter how much worse her condition became, they ignored it. Later, Uncle Wayne finally returned the shattered mirror. The research lab confirmed something, he said heavily. Once the mirror broke, the people connected to it disappeared as well. He looked at my parents sympathetically. Brenda. Gary. You need to let Lily go. Mom collapsed on the spot after hearing the news. When she woke up, she spent every day holding the broken mirror pieces, staring into them in silence. Dad couldn't bear seeing her like that. So he bought me a grave plot. Even though there was never a body. 10 years passed. Mom and Dad's hair had turned gray. They knelt in front of my grave, crying as they apologized to me over and over again. Lily. Mom was wrong, she sobbed. I never should have forced you to help Chloe speak more. I know that now. Just live happily wherever you are, and when Mom can't hold on anymore, come be with you. Dad gently placed a bouquet in front of the tombstone. We already punished Chloe, he said softly. She knows she was wrong too. She refuses to speak now. We also cut Cheryl out of our lives. Nobody's ever going to hurt you again. But the truth was, I never died. Before the mirror shattered, I had already crossed into the future. That was when the people inside the mirror finally told me who they really were. They came from the future. In their world, the birth rate had collapsed. People like them, couples unable to have children, weren't allowed to adopt anymore because there were simply too few children left. So scientists created a project that allowed people from the future to adopt healthy children from the past. But successful adoptions were incredibly rare. Most children grew up loved and protected. They would never willingly leave with strangers. Only children like me would go. As for their terrifying appearance, that was just a side effect caused by flaws in the time travel technology. But I was never afraid of them. Because when I was starving and abandoned, the people inside the mirror were the ones who saved. The moment my parents gave me away, they stopped being my family. The people from the mirror became my real mom and dad. Still, I never hated my biological parents. After all, they gave me life. But I also never planned to reunite with them. They already had the life they wanted. I had no right to disrupt it. More than 10 years later, I had grown up. And I looked almost exactly like my mother. One day while shopping, I accidentally passed by my biological parents on the street. The moment they saw my face, both of them froze. My mother stared after me in a daze. Gary, she whispered. If our daughter were still alive, would she be about this age? My biological father stood there silently for a long time before answering softly. Maybe. Then I walked past them, and straight into the arms of my new parents. At last, the sunflower had found her son.
This is Listening Novel. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed today's story, please like and subscribe for more stories, and stay tuned for what's next.